sometimes when you're sick, people can recognize that, right? And they'll point it out. They'll be like, oh, look, you're sick. I can tell. Sometimes your voice gives it away. Like this morning, I had a team meeting at work and I did some speaking, but no one said anything. But then later in the day, I had a one on one with a coworker of mine, and he was like, oh, you're sick, aren't you? I was like, yeah. He was like, I could tell. I could tell when you spoke in the meeting this morning. Oh, Gauruv is sick. Must have gotten sick these past few days. And can you imagine if I wasn't sick? How that would sound? He would basically be saying, oh, yeah, you normally sound like shit. But luckily, I was sick. So he was right. And I got sick because I've been in Greece for the past 10 days. And about halfway through the trip, I think everyone in the group, I was on this big group of about 25 people, I'll get into it. But in this group, we all started developing this cough, and it kind of stuck around for me, right? There's a bug in my throat. Well, then why don't I just get it out? Great point. Salient point. Thank you for pointing that out. But it's still kind of stuck around. My throat's a little better now, but my nose has been runny all day. Well, where's it going? I've been home. But my nose, yeah. So if I appear gross at any time in this episode, I apologize, right? If something starts looking weird. Like I blew my nose earlier today, and it looked like Spider-Man came in my mustache. It was disgusting. It was something not for the internet, not for sore eyes, I tell you. So if that happens, if something weird happens, just I apologize. Okay, this isn't my best um, state right now, but I wanted to get an episode out, right? Because like I said, I've been in Greece for the past 10 days. I'm finally back. The time I'm recording this is Monday at 5:37 p.m. I got back yesterday, but I was tired. We had this 3-hour flight to from Athens to Germany, and then a 10-hour flight from Germany to SF, and then the 2-hour drive back home. And now I'm here. I told myself, I always lie to myself, I'm gonna come home from vacation and record an episode that day. I'm not. I would never do that. And I keep lying to myself and believing the lie. But one thing you can't lie about is the fact that my sister and I just spent the last 10 days in Greece together. And it wasn't just us. We were part of this big group of about 25 people. And we went to Greece through this program called the EF Ultimate Break. I believe EF stands for Education First. It used to stand for something else, I believe, but it now stands for Education First. It's one of the largest private education companies in the world, and recently, I don't know how recent, but they started putting together these summer packages you can go on, or I think it's any time in the year, these vacation packages, and they live under the company called EF Ultimate Break. And so we did this. My sister, she had scoped out this vacation, I think back in Thanksgiving or something. I remember we were talking about it at Thanksgiving. She was like, I'm thinking about going to Greece. Is that something you'd be open to doing? I was like, yeah, sure. And so we did it. We went. Look at that. And one of the things that's funny, on this trip, everyone was asking, because, this trip is all people from the ages of 18 to 35. And they would ask my sister and I, they were like, oh my God, you guys are going on this vacation, just the two of you? How are you doing that? I think even 4 or 5 girls, they even said, yeah, we have brothers, and they would never do this shit with us. Are you guys close? And my sister and I both looked at each other and we were like, huh, that's an interesting question. Are we close? Let me think about that. I don't know what she was thinking about in that moment, but my immediate response is, no, we're not close. But we are. If you think about it, we just went all the way across, the globe together for 10 days. So yeah, we're close. But the reason my mind immediately went to, no, we're not close, is because I feel like my definition of what it means to be close to someone is if you know their day-to-day activities, right? You know what they're up to. If I was to tell you about my sister, all I could say is what she does for work, the fact that she likes to travel, and yeah, if you give me a second, I'll tell you how old she is. I need a second to think about it, okay? That's not a weird thing. It's just, so much time has passed. I don't remember how much time has passed. Well, Garv, shouldn't you just think about her age and relative to yours? But yes, that's the problem. I forget how old I am. I swear to God, the other day I thought it was 24 years old. And then some days I think I'm 27 years old. I'm 26. But still, it takes me a second to be like, when someone's like, yeah, how old are you? I'll be like, well, well, let's ask someone that knows. Or you should know. I'm like, yeah, oh, yep, no, that's a good point you made there. Just give me a second. I'll get back to you. So that's the thing. I feel like I don't know that much about her. And in my head, I'm like, that's how you tell if you're close to someone. But no, I think relative to other siblings, yeah, we're close. I mean, we went to Greece together for 10 days. That's got to measure up to something, right? Amount for something, mean something. But I don't want to tell you all about the trip because, all the nuance of travel, no one gives a fuck, right? I don't give a shit about the details. I talk about this every time I go on a trip. But the real reason is because every episode I talk about my trips, they do historically bad. So I'm not going to talk about the trip. But I can talk about certain things that happen on the trip, right? Wait, so he's just talking about the trip, but he said he's not going to? I'm not going to tell you like the things we saw and stuff like that, but I can tell you certain things that happened, and you might get some value out of that. You might find that interesting. If I told you, oh yeah, we went and saw the Acropolis, right? The big, uh, what is it? Building with the pillars and the marble pillars and all the beautiful history where the democracy was apparently born in Athens, Greece. That's not interesting to you. You don't give a fuck about maybe half the words I just said. And the other half, it's not even like you care about them either. You just recognize them. So I could tell you about the things that happened, not the places I visited. And the first thing that happened, right, you gotta take a plane to go over there. And I don't know if this is a new thing that people are doing, but it was very prevalent, ubiquitous, some might say. And that's people reading on like an electronic device. I don't know if it's an e reader or their phone. I saw both, so I guess I do know. But yeah, on some light up rectangle, there were people reading. I'd never seen this many people do that on flights. And on the way there, I saw this older woman, right? She had fully white hair from root to tip. And she was reading this e-reader, right, with a lowly lowly lit screen, but you can tell it doesn't give off any blue light, so she'll be able to keep her eyes in her old age. But she was reading smut on that thing, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever read smut. If I do, I guess I'm a freak, aren't I? And I just don't know it. But I don't think I've intentionally read any smut, but I could tell my smut detector went off when I looked at her screen. Because, yeah, each screen maybe had like 15 pages on it before she would flip to the next one. Sorry, 15 words on each screen before she would flip to the next page. And from what I read, right, I don't want to be a snooping guy, right, a peeping Tom and, look over her shoulder, but it was right there. All right, it was in my peripheral. And one of the lines I read was, oh yeah, I fit into her like a lock inside of a locket. I was like, oh my goodness. And the next line was like, oh yes, I love the way she strapped that latex on. I was like, oh, so this is some freak shit, right? And it's funny because all these people that read on these things, they don't keep it small. They make it big because they have that autonomy with their electronic reading experience. And so they make the words really big so that they can, don't exhaust themselves trying to squint and read the words. But then the byproduct of that, right? The consequence of that is that everyone behind you can read what you're reading. And so, yeah, I I saw this older woman, reading smut. And that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a thing that happened on this plane. Another thing that happens on planes is that the pilot likes to announce at the beginning, he's like, oh, all right, thanks for flying today with us. We're going to go ahead and just get kicked off here. We're waiting for a couple planes to go ahead of us, but then we'll probably go right behind them. So thanks for flying with us, and we're going to be flying up at 34,000 feet elevation. So thank you for flying, and we'll get off here shortly. Thanks. And I don't know why they think we give a fuck about the elevation that they fly at. I realize that. They always say that, don't they? Today we're going to be flying at 34,000 feet. And I'm like, yeah, but why are you telling me that? Then I'm going to be back here trying to use your shitty $35 Wi-Fi to watch a YouTube video in 144p. All right, why are we sharing things? What was that supposed to do? Are they saying that? And then is someone going to like get up and be like, nah, that's a bad elevation. No, 36. 36 is the good one. Someone's like, did he say 34? Oh, 34, no good. I had a friend that did 34. Awful. Disaster. Oh, a disaster with a plane? What happened? Never forget. Anyways, but I wonder why they tell us that. Because what are they going to think? We're going to give like some input from the back of the plane. 34 with this style of plane, no good. With this model, you'd be lucky to get off at 34. You think you're going to cruise up there? Yeah, right, buddy. Not with this kind of infrastructure. But they tell it to us like it matters. It's like if someone was driving a car and they're like, we're going to be going mostly northbound today. I'll be like, all right, get me there. All right. Thomas Hooker. I don't want to know how you're going to use a compass. Don't say that shit to me, man. Thomas Hooker, by the way, he is a famous navigator. So don't look at me like that. I didn't say a bad word. I said a name. It's a proper noun, not a noun. But they do this like, yeah, people will have opinions about the elevation as if that means shit to me. I understand now. People say that thing. They like to make the joke I just made, which is like, oh yeah, it goes southwest for a few, whatever. And it's like, oh, you gotta take a plane to go there? They're like, no, the direction, idiot. But, people always say that thing, oh yeah, go north till you hit the grocery store. It's like, I'm not Christopher Columbus. Why are you saying that to me? But I get that now. If you've ever looked at a map of like where you live, you kind of understand which way north, south, east, and west is. But by the way, I know the order is northeast, southwest. I just said it weird. Don't look at me like that. But I actually do understand if someone, like in college, I understand the look of an orientation of our school's campus. So if someone was like, go north, I would know what that means. If someone was like, I lived in North Davis, I lived in South Davis, that would mean something to me. But if you say that in everyday language, like if you go somewhere and you're like in a city and you ask someone on the street, hey, which way is the subway shop? And then they say like, oh yeah, just go east. I'd be like, what? Okay, don't. What's stopping me from mugging you right here and giving this city the fucking reputation of being crime ridden? All right, don't say that shit to me. That in itself is a crime. I'm gonna report you. Okay, that's public indecency. Ooh, go east. Who am I? Hey, I'm doing an impression. Who am I? Ooh, go east for 500 paces. Yeah, you idiot. No one talks like that. Anywho, another thing on the plane was during the, before you like lift off to infinity and beyond, um, some people were playing with their lights in front of me. It was this couple, and they kept fucking turning the light on by accident. And then they realized they turned the light on, thank God, one time. And then the husband, he quickly goes up to like switch the light off, but the control doesn't come from up there. It comes from their screen. So he's up there like trying to, mess with the light. He's like, oh my God, it's on, it's on. We have the only light that's on. And he gets back down. He immediately goes for his screen, or his wife's screen, because she's the one that had her light on. And right when he does that, the pilot starts making an announcement. And because a pilot makes an announcement, they disable the screen so that you pay attention. And so he just kept ramming his hand against her screen. And I could hear him. He was like, we got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. And he just was like, how do you turn the light off? And it's clear that you can't, the screen, you can't use it while the pilot is telling you what elevation you guys are going to cruise at. So he started freaking out. And then the pilot's announcement stopped. And then the husband just forgot that the light was on. The whole thing he just started freaking out about for 10 to 15 seconds. It was as if it never happened. But the light was still on. He sat there for the next 20 minutes with the light on. And then I saw it happen. He realized, he was like, oh my God, the light's on. And then he went to his wife's screen and turned that shit off. But I'm like, did you forget? What? Are you a child? You have what is it, object permanence? You don't realize unless you're looking at something that it exists. Anywho, when we got to Greece, right, there was this big group, and everyone was lovely in the group. They're amazing people. Loved them. And I have to say, I did get asked one weird question, though. It was from a gentleman, 28 years old, and he caught me off guard. It wasn't even like a weird question, but I had never been asked it, and so I didn't know what to do with it. He asked me, on the first day you want to get to know people, and he said, so tell me, what's the life story of Gauruv? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, what's your life story? And I was like, oh, well, what do you want to know? He was like, no, just, what would you say about yourself? I'm like, well, like, is there anything specific you're asking for? And he was like, no, just like if you were writing a book about your life, what would you put in there? And I was like, well, I would maybe ask my readers what they want to know, because that's most important in getting sales, giving the readers what they want. And then he was like, well, yeah, the readers want your life story. And I was like, but like, which chapters would be most important? I was like, I like to poll my constituents. And he was like, what are you, a politician? I'm like, no, I wouldn't call myself that. Because if I was, I would have given you an answer by now. I am a human, and I don't know how to answer this question you just gave me. And so I realized it's kind of a derivative of one of my least favorite questions, which is, hey, how are you? It's like, this is just a formality. That's the whole reason behind the name of this podcast, I'm Doing Well. If you don't know that, that's why this podcast is named that, is because like 5 years ago, I was so affected, infatuated, whatever the fuck, about the question of, oh, how's it going, Gauruv? I would always freak out when people ask me that because I'm like, I don't know. Do you care? I don't know what to tell you. Now I've come to terms with it because I'm like a normal person. I'm a functioning adult. And I realize, oh, it's just kind of like a formality. Just give them what they want, which is you saying, oh, I'm doing good, is what I tell people. But that's not proper English, which is why I named this podcast I'm Doing Well. But yeah, when people are like, oh, how's it going? I'm like, I'm doing good, you know? And so this is just another version of that. What's your life story? He doesn't want my life story. He just wants to know something about me because he doesn't know anything about me. But I'm a fucking idiot. I chose to make it a big deal. Actually, no, I didn't choose to make it a big deal. I just didn't want to answer the question, so I tried to make a joke to play it off. And so that's why I did that. I know what response I could have given, right? Oh, this is what I do for work. This is where I'm from, blah blah. That shit, but I don't want to talk about that stuff. I don't want to talk. So I was trying to get more of a specific read from him. It's kind of like when I come back from vacation and my friends are like, "Oh, how was vacation?" I'm like, "I don't. What do you want to know specifically, though?" And then if they want to know something, I'll tell you that. But I don't want to give you the whole trip story, right? It's the same thing. I don't want to tell you the story of Gauruv Virk. No one gives a fuck. But if there's something specific you're wondering about, I'll dip into it. Yeah, we can tread in those waters. But yeah, I'd never been given that before. Another thing that was funny was one of the days, when you go from all these islands to islands, you got to take a ferry. And so when we went to Athens or from Athens to Santorini, we had to take a ferry. That was the first ferry we had to take. However, it was too windy, so the ferry was canceled. It wasn't gonna sail that day because it would have been too dangerous. And it's funny because, if you experience motion sickness, you're supposed to take a motion sickness pill about an hour before the ferry was going to depart. And so our tour director, he said, make sure you guys take that. But then we got to the port and we found out it was canceled. And then we went back to our hotel to chill for about 3 hours. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, yeah, that's so funny. What some people's bodies are probably thinking right now. Their bodies are probably like, all right, so you took the motion sickness pill. And this is what you were afraid of? Fucking loser. Because your body, right, it has the pill. And it's probably like, all right, yep, bring on the motion. And then they were probably just sitting in their hotel room on their phone, and their body was like, oh, so this is what you were scared of? What? How did your ancestors make it through evolution and natural selection to this point? You don't think you could have handled that? Also, another thing I learned on this trip is I think it's time to officially declare that I'm not a club person. I think I've been lying to myself for the past few years and been like, no, no, if we go out, I think I can really hit the club with the same veracity as another individual, but that's a lie. No, I don't like a club. A club is fine. It's fine. I don't think it's my thing, is what I realized. Because a few of these nights, right, we would go out to these clubs, and my objective during these clubs is to just get out as quickly as I can. People that say that thing, money and power, it doesn't corrupt someone, it makes them more who they are. I still don't know if that's true, but that's like a working idea. I've asked friends about it, and I still don't know what the right answer is, but assuming that that idea is true, that money and power or don't corrupt, but make someone more truly who they are, you could say the same thing about alcohol. Does alcohol corrupt someone, or does it make it someone more of who they truly are? And if we go along, right, with the theory that alcohol makes you more of who you are, well, that's true for me. When I drink, I become more of who I am. And the person that I am is someone that likes to be alone. So I remember that one of the nights we went to a club and everyone was in there dancing, people were getting up on the bar table, and then we had ordered drinks. I just downed my entire cocktail, and then I was like, I don't want to be here. And then I left. I just exited the club. There were like fucking 15 of us in there that I knew in, what was it? I think this is Santorini at this point. And then I just downed a fucking white Russian, and then I just walked out. And then I started walking around the marketplace, just going in shops, doing shopping. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't think I'm a club person. There was this little shawarma place down the road. This kid was playing drums outside of it. I just sat there and I just listened to him because I'm like, this is what I want to do. I just want to be alone, smelling shawarma and listening to a kid on the drums. I don't want to be with all these friends in this club having fun. No, no, no. I remember when I went to the East Coast a few years ago with my friend. Yeah, we got drunk in New York. That was the first time I ever got drunk. And I sat in a club playing solitaire on a couch. And then, he was like, oh, come dance. I was like, no, I'm good right here. And it wasn't that I hated him. It wasn't that I hated dancing. I was just so okay not doing that because I didn't want to. Some people, right? They're like, oh, when you get a little bit of alcohol, a little loudmouth soup in your system, then you open up and you're like, you feel better doing things. And I feel better rejecting people when I'm under the influence. Like I remember there was even another club we went to and I was drinking and people were like, come dance, come dance. And I was like, no, no, I'm good. And I felt no guilt about it. If I'm sober and people are like, come dance, there's a slight chance I will dance. Just out of like peer pressure, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm an asshole if I don't. But if I got a little bit that ABV liquid in my body, I'm like, no, I'm fine. No, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. But the thing is, also, like, when I go in this club, there was this big wall. There was just a mirror in one of these clubs. And I remember going to that club, looking at the wall, and I saw I was like a foot taller than everyone. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on here, or maybe you're like a newer listener. I'm 6'3". And so I think it's slightly above average height, right? And in this club that we were in, I was taller than all the people I was around. And I don't know if you know this either, but I'm painfully self aware. And so that was a fucking nightmare. The reason I don't ever talk about that I'm self aware is because you can't do that because you are self aware. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're a thing, you should never say you're a thing because that defeats the purpose. But no, I know all the bad things that I do. Like when I don't text my friends back, I know that. It hurts me as much as it hurts you. Yeah. I'm like a serial killer that doesn't like murder. Like I still do the thing, but I don't feel good about it. Yeah, I don't text you back, and I know that, but I don't feel good about it. I don't take joy in not texting you back. It's just who I am. It's in my nature. And so when I saw that, oh, I'm like a foot taller than everyone, I was like, oh, I got to get out of here. I was like, everyone can see me. I don't want to be here doing this. Yeah, this is too much. And that's another thing I learned from this trip that wow, I am so out of shape when it comes to like social stamina. Because yeah, about the first half of the trip, I was good. I was talking to people and having conversations. And then, yeah, like halfway through the trip, I know we were probably sleep deprived, and like I said, people started getting sick. But I just could not keep up socially. I realized I need alone time so desperately. It's kind of like, when you go into these clubs. I remember there was one club we went in. It was in Mykonos. It was a Scandinavian club. It's famous. People apparently knew about it. My sister knew about it before we went there. She was like, oh, this is a really cool spot. I'm like, yeah, looks cool. 2 stories. They took us up to the second story. Tour director got us all in. I went to the bathroom. I exited the bathroom. I looked around. I walked out of the club. And then I shopped. I bought this t-shirt I'm wearing right now because I left a Scandinavian club in Mykonos because I was like, I don't want to do this shit. But that's the thing. I'm an introvert. That's just a thing. And I've gotten accused of being an extrovert because I'm like on the internet. And so people are like, no, 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 that's like a thing to put yourself out there. So you're an extrovert. I'm like, no, no, but it's about how you recharge. And on this trip, I desperately needed to recharge. So I would find little spots. Sometimes I would go to the bathroom during meals just so I could be alone. I didn't even do anything. I would go in that little stall, lock myself in, and just and then I'd flush to make it seem like I was in there for a reason, and then I'd leave and I'd go join up with the group. And that's the thing, yeah. I'm like, how smokers have to have like a step outside for a smoke break? I have to step outside for like an alone time break. And then, some people are like, oh, can I join you? I'm like, no, that defeats the purpose. You're going to bum off one of my cigarettes. You're going to bum off some of my alone time. I need this. The reason this is for me. So, I lost 5 pounds on this trip, which is crazy because we drank every single day. But that's the thing. They're doing something to American food, right? I don't know what it is. I'm like a conspiracy theorist that doesn't have any evidence implying that for some reason they do usually have evidence. But I'm not even basing my takes off anything. It's just a vibe, right? Because yeah, we drank every day. We ate like shit, right? Like meat and bread every single day, pita bread and wine and cocktails. And still, I know we did a little bit of walking, but I shouldn't have lost 5 pounds. That's insane. So, yeah. I ordered this drink at one of the restaurants in Santorini called the Red Queen. And when I ordered it, I was like, could I get a Red Queen? He was like, you want the Red Queen? I was like, yeah, is that okay? He was like, no, that's okay. So one queen for you. I'm like, all right, say the full name. Don't do that. Don't say I'm getting the queen. Don't shorthand it. All right, I'm getting the Red Queen. There's no other queens here, but so you wouldn't get it mixed up with anything. So you're right in just calling it the queen. But don't do that. The rest of my table, they got like espresso martinis, old fashions, Moscow mules, and then yeah, I got the Red Queen. He even came over. He was like, one Red Queen for you, sir. I'm like, don't sir me. Don't do that. And then what's funny is I ordered this fucking spaghetti thing. It was like this beef pasta. It came in a bag. They came out, I don't, maybe there's a recording of it. I think my sister has it, so I don't think I'll get a hold of it in time for this podcast episode. But they brought out this pasta. It's like in a rolled up shirt, and then they unfurled the shirt, and the pasta just drops in this big metal bowl. And they're like, this is for you. The guy that ordered the queen. I'm like, it's the Red Queen. It's the Red Queen, everyone. Okay? I don't know why he keeps calling it that. No, I'm not insecure about the cocktails I order. If you're a friend of mine, you know I do this. I go to restaurants. The waiter will be like, so can we get any drinks started for the table? I almost always ask, what's the fruitiest cocktail you have? I will take that one. Yeah. What is it? Blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. Yeah. The more berries, the better. Get it up in there. All right. Also on this trip, right, I'm meeting new people. And of course, it came out that, I have a social media presence. Not presence, but like I post myself on the internet. And so people naturally ask questions. And then they were like asking what, they find out I have a podcast. They're like, well, what do you talk about? Again, the same question came up. And so I told them, some of the like recent topics I talked about was like, you can't trust married people. And then, how humans would have been phased out long ago if hunger didn't hurt, wasn't painful. And then I even talked about how people with bigger mouths look like they enjoy food more. Also, people buying a box of cereal and milk at a grocery store lets people know that they're going to go home and scarf that shit down. And then once I said these topics, everyone was like, what the fuck? How could you talk about that? And then I would explain each of them. And then most people, after I explained them, were like, oh, actually, that makes sense. I'm on board now. I was like, yeah, that's kind of the story of this podcast. Like, I will say something, and most of the time, people will like live message me when they listen to these podcast episodes, and they'll be like, what the fuck are you about to talk about here? And then I'll get another message from them like 6 minutes later where they're like, oh, actually, I kind of agree. I'm like, yeah, I feel like a lot of things I say are fucking weird, but you got to hear me out, right? You're familiar with the hear me out cake where girls admit to wanting to fuck Thomas the tank engine? You need to hear me out with my takes. I think most of the time I'm coming from a good place. You just gotta allow me to get there. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey, right? That's what they say. So just let me take my journey, and then you'll understand why we got to where we got. But then one person did say something that was immediately correct. They were like, oh, wait, so your podcast is just like a bunch of shower thoughts. And I was like, oh. Yeah, no, that's actually the perfect way to put it. I don't know why I've never thought about that before. They're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Might check it out. I'm like, oh. Okay, yeah, sorry, I don't know why I've never thought about what you just said before. That's crazy. Yeah, no, these are just like stupid shower thoughts stretch over 32 minutes. Wow. But then I was, not everyone finds out about the podcast at the same time. So it starts to pop up certain people. So like the same person I found out on like day 2, I was sitting next to them in like day 6 at dinner when someone else found out. And they're like, oh, what do you talk about? And I was talking about it more. And the person from day 2 was like, why do you always seem embarrassed when you talk about it? I'm like, well, the thing is, like I said, I'm painfully self-aware. I know that if you put stuff on the internet, that you're basically saying, right? It's an admission that you think you're important enough that people will like want to listen to you. That the things you're saying are like important enough that people will listen to them, which is an insane thing to tell someone you just met So I'm like uncomfortable talking about it because what a crazy like first impression to make, right? What a crazy claim to have to someone you just met. So that's why I'm like, it's weird to talk about because it's you put yourself on the internet for thousands of hours. Yeah, you're basically saying, no, people want to hear what I have to say. And how can you like that person? Anyone that's like, no, people want to hear what I have to say, that's the worst person. But what are we doing right here, right? Almost 60 weeks in a row. So that's why I get uncomfortable. That's why I don't try to talk about the things I do on the internet, like in real life, because they carry like a, what is it called? They carry like a reputation with them, right? There's like a connotation behind this. And I don't want people to have that. I want them to just like learn who I am, be like, oh, this doesn't seem like a guy that would record himself talking for 32 minutes because he thinks people would want to listen to that. This seems like a normal guy. So yeah, thank you for listening to this normal guy speak. And also, I want to say, just before we go out here, Justin Bieber's, I don't know how else to say this. He's going to kill himself, right? Like, like people keep doing that trend where they're like, it's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business. That's going to be a bunch of girls' Instagram captions this summer, I bet. But like, he's going through it. And so, what is he going to like kill himself? Because it's too much? Seems like he and Haley are having issues. Don't know if there's support there, right? So then is he going to do that? And then all these girls with their summertime captions, you're going to go back to them and they're all going to be edited to just be like an emoji or some shit? Like a sun emoji and like a umbrella emoji. Yeah, guys gotta stop memeing Justin Bieber. Is someone gonna check in on him? This is the thing on social media, right? Like even with politics, like, we're like going through maybe like a world event right now. I'm not gonna say which one because there's just so many to list, but we're potentially entering a new war and everyone's making jokes about getting drafted. It's like, guys, I don't know if these memes are healthy for society because we're turning it into a joke and then we're not looking at it for what it is. Justin Bieber might kill himself, but it's not clocking to you them standing on business as you eat ravioli in Italy. Fucking shut up. Sorry. Anywho, says the guy that went to Greece, huh? But one song I've been listening to is Suzanne by Mark Ronson and Ray. So, a little recommendation for you, right? I went to Greece and I came back bearing gifts. So, yeah, give that song a listen. It's a good one. I like it. And I hope you like this. I hope this was worth the listen. Again, at the time I'm finishing recording this, it's 6:09 p.m. I usually post these things at 8 p.m., which is, an hour, 51 minutes. And these things usually take 2.5 hours to edit. So, shocker, this is going to be a later episode in the day, which it always is, isn't it? And you always show up listening. Hey, by the way, we need comments. By the way, we haven't been getting a lot of comments recently. The last episode was good, but everything before that for like the past 10 weeks, not good. So make sure you leave a like. I know like 30 of you listen to this. I can tell by the watch time. We're only getting like 7 to 9 likes for some reason. So make sure you like the episode. Leave a comment. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned on my Instagram. I'm going to post Greece pictures. And then I need likes on there because I need validation. You know that. I'm a guy that puts himself on the internet. I might assume that people want to hear what I have to say, but I still need that feedback. Else, what's going to keep me going? I need acceptance. But you're listening to this podcast is all the acceptance I need. So thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Been going on for too long here. I'll talk to you next week. Okay.